This janitor discovers an unusual creature held hostage at her workplace and decides to release it into the ocean. Going to explain the 2016 fantasy romance movie The Shape of Water. Set in Baltimore, Maryland in the early 1960s, the movie tells the story of a mute janitor, Elisa, who discovers a humanoid amphibian held captive in the laboratory where she works and decides to set it free. At the start of the movie, Elisa is woken up by the sound of her alarm clock. She prepares for work, boards a bus, and arrives at Occam Aerospace Research Center, the government's secret laboratory where she works. At work, the staff are informed about a sensitive asset which is expected to arrive at their facility. Soon, a vessel containing the asset is brought into the laboratory. Elisa looks into the vessel through its transparent cover and notices some movements and howling in the greenish water. She taps gently on the cover, and the creature trapped inside the vessel starts to bang on it. The next day, Elisa and her co-worker Zelda are cleaning the men's bathroom when Colonel Richard Strickland enters the bathroom to ease himself. He makes the ladies uncomfortable with his manner of speech. He even has his hands on his waist while using the urinal, splashing some urine carelessly on the floor. Just after he has left, Elisa notices there is blood on the sink, near the spot he had kept his stun baton, which he uses to torture the humanoid amphibian. In the hallway, Elisa and Zelda hear a scream, and shortly after, Mr. Strickland stumbles out and falls to his knees with 2 missing fingers and a bleeding hand. Elisa and Zelda are taken into a laboratory room and are asked to clean the blood splattered across the floor. Elisa discovers 2 human fingers while cleaning the floor and puts them in a bag. The fingers belonged to Mr. Strickland and were bitten off by the humanoid amphibian while he was torturing the creature. Zelda decides to inform Mr. Fleming, who asks them to clean up the room, about the 2 fingers. Now alone in the room, Elisa discovers the humanoid amphibian trapped in a vessel, but she quickly walks away from the vessel the moment Zelda returns with Mr. Fleming. Mr. Fleming requests for the fingers, and Elisa hands the bag to him. At home, Elisa spends a good amount of her time with Giles, a middle-aged illustrator who lives next door. Elisa tells Giles about the creature she saw in the laboratory. Giles believes that Elisa must have seen something unusual, but he is not convinced it's a living creature. Giles even goes on to tell Elisa how he once saw a mermaid in a carnival, but then it turned out to be a monkey sewn to the tail of a fish. Elisa sneaks into the room on another day, but can't find the creature in the vessel. She realizes soon enough that the creature is now chained in a pool of greenish water in the room. She peels a hard-boiled egg and leaves it beside the pool for the creature. The creature takes the egg and dives into the pool. Mr. Strickland calls Zelda and Elisa into his office. The 2 fingers that were bitten off have been surgically reattached, and now there is a bandage wrapped around them. Mr. Strickland cautions the 2 ladies about the creature in the room. He tells them that their job is to clean the laboratory and leave as soon as they are done. He goes on to explain that he caught the creature from a South American river. Afterwards, he dismisses the 2 cleaners. Elisa quickly develops a close relationship with the trapped creature, and in addition to feeding the creature with boiled eggs, Elisa also starts playing music to it and teaching it sign language. Elisa enters the room another day and finds the creature chained to the ground, bleeding from several parts of its body. Elisa notices the door opening and quickly runs into hiding. Mr. Strickland enters the room and continues torturing the creature. He finds an egg which had fallen from Elisa's bag, picks it up and stares at it with suspicion. General Hoyt, Strickland's superior at the facility, steps into the room to see the creature, accompanied by some guards and scientists, including Bob Hofstetler, one of the scientists studying the creature. The truth, however, is that Bob Hofstetler is a Russian spy whose real name is Dmitri. From time to time, he meets with his Russian bosses at a particular restaurant and gives them updates about the humanoid amphibian. General Hoyt has plans of possibly sending the humanoid amphibian to space. Strickland suggests that they vivisect the creature to enable them to carry out their study properly, but Hofstetler does not think that's a good idea. Hofstetler complains that the creature has passed out and needs to be returned to the water. General Hoyt grants his request. Elisa manages to leave the laboratory when the men are out. Now she's aware that Mr. Strickland wants to kill the creature, and she starts making plans to rescue it. At home, Elisa tells Giles about her plan to save the creature. Giles says there's no need to take the risk of saving the creature since it's not even human. Then he leaves, despite Elisa's persistent attempts to make him think otherwise. Giles returns home after he is asked out of a pie shop by the young man managing the shop. Now he promises to assist Elisa in whatever ways he can. They start to make plans to get the creature out of the facility. Meanwhile, at the restaurant where he meets with his Russian bosses, Hofstetler receives some poison from his bosses. They want him to kill the humanoid amphibian so that the Americans won't be able to continue studying the creature. Hofstetler walks into Strickland's office and tells him that the vivisection has to be delayed. He tries to explain to Strickland how the creature is intelligent and capable of feeling human emotions, but Strickland wants the vivisection to go on as planned. Hofstetler enters the room where the creature is trapped and finds Elisa trying to unchain it. Since he's also not willing to poison the creature just as his bosses want him to do, he decides to cooperate with Elisa. He hands Elisa the keys to unchain the creature and gives her some instructions on how to keep the creature alive and healthy. Elisa hides the creature in a laundry cart, covers it with some pieces of cloth, and moves it to the loading dock. Zelda sees Elisa moving the cart and tries to stop her, but ends up assisting in getting the creature into Giles' vehicle parked nearby. The creature is weak when they arrive at Elisa's apartment. Elisa keeps it in her bathtub and makes the water conducive for the creature using salt and some chemicals she got from Hofstetler. She starts making plans of releasing the creature into the ocean through a water canal. Elisa and Zelda are interrogated, but they both deny having a hand in the creature's disappearance. Other workers at the facility are interrogated as well. Giles wakes up from sleep and finds the creature in his living room, squatting and eating one of his cats. The creature notices Giles' presence and dashes out of the room, scratching Giles' arm while leaving. Giles calls and informs Elisa what has happened. Elisa hurries back home and finds the creature in the movie theater below. She leads it back to her apartment. In the apartment, the creature appears remorseful about eating Giles' cat. It touches Giles' balding head and the scratch on his hand, even though Giles does not understand exactly what this means. He'll realize that the creature has some healing power when he wakes up the following morning and finds hair growing on the bald spot and the scratch on his arm completely healed. Elisa's relationship with the creature grows stronger and leads to them having sexual intercourse. Once even, Elisa closes the door, windows, and other openings in her bathroom and fills the bathroom with water, dancing naked with the creature. General Hoyt, now aware that the creature is missing, informs Strickland that he has just 36 hours to find the creature or face the consequences. Strickland, suspicious of Hofstetler, has begun spying on him. He secretly follows Hofstetler to the restaurant where he meets with his Russian bosses. Hofstetler gets shot by one of his Russian bosses, but Strickland shoots the Russian bosses and tortures Hofstetler until he confesses that the cleaners are responsible for the creature's disappearance. Mr. Strickland arrives at Zelda's apartment to confront her about the missing creature. Zelda insists she doesn't know anything about the creature, but her husband, Brewster, tells Strickland that it is Elisa who took the creature. He had heard Zelda talking about it over the phone. Strickland thanks Brewster and then leaves. Zelda quickly calls Elisa on the phone and informs her that Strickland is coming to her apartment. Before Strickland could arrive at Elisa's apartment, Elisa and Giles have already left the apartment with the creature. Strickland angrily searches through the house and finds a note that suggests that Elisa and Giles are off to release the creature into the canal. Mr. Strickland soon arrives at the canal, knocks Giles down with a punch, and shoots both Elisa and the creature. Giles regains some strength, gets up, and hits Strickland in the face with a piece of wood. The creature heals itself of the gunshot wound and stands to its feet. Strickland gets up and tries to reload his gun, but the creature, now standing right before him, slits his throat with his claws. Soon, Zelda arrives at the canal with the police. The creature carries Elisa and jumps into the canal. In the water, the creature kisses Elisa and heals her wound. The scars on Elisa's neck from her childhood turn into gills as she gasps. Now fully revived, Elisa and the creature hug each other.